Yes, good afternoon. Sava and Perchy here from Football Heritage TV and the Perchy TV. Big up, Perchy. How you doing, man? You good?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. Look, just a quick 20-minute video that we thought we'd bring to everyone, whoever cares about the Premier League. We all know about Spurs, but let's go through every game. We're going to do a 2-minute quick roundup on each game, and we're going to start with Wolves at home to Liverpool. Talk to me. How did you think it went? Surprised?
I was surprised in the first half. I thought Wolves were brilliant in the first half. I thought, wow. And I think I said to you at the time, do you know what I liked about it? This is how you get that Liverpool defence. Get them, run at them. I thought that Bogard was brilliant. I thought he's brilliant in midfield. And in the second half, they did the complete opposite and allowed Liverpool back in the game. And then Liverpool went and took over in the second half.
Yeah, it was almost as though Liverpool had that kind of hairdryer treatment at half-time, as if to say, come on, lads, you're Liverpool. And you're right. I mean, that game should have been 3 or 4-0 at half-time to Wolves. And that's Wolves' problem from what I've seen so far this season. Nice, pretty football. No goal scorers at all. Like, just no goals across their team. Yeah,
bang on, mate. And that's the killer thing for them this season. Unless they get someone that can put it in the onion bag, well, the pretty football's great, but if you're not scoring goals, it's irrelevant, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But Liverpool, second half, they showed their power. When you've got Darwin Núñez, Mo Salah, Diaz, Gakpo, Jota, I mean, Szoboszlai, the forward options are crazy, right? They've got such a wealth of talent.
Yeah, they're a great footballing side, and look what they've done. They've just completely reinvented their midfield, right? And it paid dividends. And they were, and in fairness, over 90 minutes, they were deserving to win the game because they were quality in that second half.
Yeah, and then you've got young players like Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott as well that are going to get more minutes than ever. Harvey Elliott with a good goal. Look, I mean, Liverpool for me, I think Wolves are going to be banging trouble. I don't think they'll go down, but I do think they're in trouble. Liverpool for me are shoo-in for top 4. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think on displays there, we always say this, right? If you're not amazing in 90 minutes, but you still go and win games of football, big thumbs up, right? Big thumbs up. And listen, Liverpool will outscore teams. You could argue defensively they can be got at.
Yeah.
But going forward, you know that when you've got the likes, as you said, Salah, Diaz, Núñez, Gakpo, there's goals there, right? And goals win games of football.
Absolutely. And for a team that were dead, we'll move on now from them, but for a team that were apparently dead and weren't going anywhere, they've now not lost in 16 Premier League games, which isn't too bad at all, is it?
Exactly.
Then the next one, Villa Park, Aston Villa 3, Palace 1. Palace 1-0 up for a long time in that game. Crystal Palace were 1-0 up. We're seeing a bit of a pattern, aren't we? Aston Villa seem to be winning all their home games, losing their away games, and Crystal Palace not quite got enough for me. What do you make about this result?
Oh, tell you what, it's a really good game. I had it on I do a lot on my show around the grounds. I would watch these goals. Villa had one goal chalked off that was an absolute beauty from Diaby, chalked off, and then an absolute worldie from John Duran. It might be goal of the week, by the way. This could be goal of the week. It was an absolute wonder strike. And then in added time, very similar to a game we're probably going to talk about very shortly, 2 goals in added time to completely kill off Crystal Palace, who weren't amazing, but went 1-0 up. And you thought, you know what, see the game out. And they didn't. And Villa right at the end looked really, really good.
Yeah, and I suppose Villa are another team that are just starting to add options. When you look at Diaby, for me, one of the best signings of the summer, Zaniolo, Watkins, Duran, Kamara, they've got options now in terms of Leon Bailey. Aston Villa for a European spot this year. Do you fancy them under Unai Emery?
Depends. I think they might get a European spot, but not on league position. I think they might go and win the Conference League and get it from that way. He's a European specialist, Unai Emery. He might sit back and think, do you know what, I can win that. But he might go and drop a few players in the league later down the season to go, do you know what, we're going to go out and all out and win the Conference League, which it wouldn't shock me. But listen, Villa are a very good side, organised by a manager that knows what he's doing, right? He's a manager that knows what he's doing. So, listen, I think Villa will be absolutely fine this season in all levels of competition.
Yeah, good team. And Crystal Palace, just really, really, really briefly on them. Worried about them, or are they going to be always the kind of 10th to 14th, somewhere in around that mix for you?
Yeah, they're too good to go down, but they're not good enough to be in Europe. So you're right. Yep. Anywhere between 9th and 14th is where they're going to finish the season.
Yeah. Interesting one. Fulham versus Luton. Look, for me, I'm put it out there straight away. Fulham are a well-organised unit. They do well. They got picked up 3 points here. They picked up a point away at the Emirates. They're not amazing, but they're a very solid team. Whereas Luton Town, for me, I think it was just way too soon for them to come up. I really do. I think they're going to struggle massively.
Yeah, another one of those I predicted right. My prediction before the start that everyone went 1-0 Fulham, they're going to batter them. I went, no. What have Fulham not got? Goal scorer. I mean, their goal scorer is a Raul Jimenez, and big up to him, by the way, because of his injury, but he's not the same player anymore. They've got Carlos Vinicius, who we've seen personally as Spurs fans, what he's like, not good enough. Yeah, he scored the winner, but this Luton, you're right, way too early for them. Good luck to them, by the way. Like, it would be nice for them to do well. It's nice to see new teams in it, but you're right. They haven't really strengthened. They haven't really got a team that you're looking at that is good enough. They've got an all-right championship team, but it just hasn't started for them. And I think, do you know what? I think what killed them initially is not being able to start at home. They had that period where they couldn't. And sometimes you look at teams, I thought Huddersfield, when they came up, weren't good enough. But what did they have? They had a good atmosphere at home, and it pulled them over their home performance. Pulled them over the line. Luton maybe might see down the line. Maybe they get an extra few games at home down the line, but we'll see. But at the moment, they're not ready yet. Not ready for the Premier League.
Yeah. And Fulham, another top 10 finish for them, or slightly lower, slightly higher? What do you reckon?
I think similar to Palace, what we just said, I think they'll be one of those teams between 9th and 14th. They haven't got a goal scorer, but what they have got, defensively, very organised.
Yeah.
So they're not, I think, they'll be one of those teams that you'll see a lot of 0-0s and a lot of 1-0s out of Fulham this season. It won't be exciting, it won't be pretty, but they're organised with Marco Silva.
Yeah, they've done really, really well. Let's move to now the Man United Brighton game. Now, this was we had the conversation. Loads of people were having the conversation before the start of the weekend as to where's your where's your shock result going to come from? And people were saying Brighton, and my feeling was I don't think it is a shock anymore. I don't think Brighton going to Man United and win is a shock. Credit to Brighton, but I mean, let's talk Man United first. They're a mess, aren't they? They're a club in freefall.
Yeah, I think Man United are in real trouble this season. They're on and off the pitch, by the way. They're bringing out statement after statement about players. Listen, I'm not going to get into that. We're talking about football, but my point is it can't be good, right? You can't be having your club under the spotlight, under the microscope so much. You've got it all going wrong. The situation with Jadon Sancho, whoever's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. But when you're losing games of football, when you're excluding a player, whether or not you think he's good enough for the team or not, it's gonna highlight. If Man United are winning game after game, no one talks about it. But they're not. They're losing games. And by the way, you're spot on when you said about Brighton being a shock at Old Trafford. Brighton have now won 4 games of their last 4 games against Man United in the league. Yeah. The only time Man United beat them in the cup, but in the league, they've beaten them 4 times in a row now.
Yeah, I mean, Man United, for me, I'm not an advocate of wanting to sack managers so soon into a season. But if ever a team looked like they hadn't had a manager, if ever a team looked like they had a new manager, Ten Hag looks like he's brand new there. But he's been there now for about 18 months. He's signed a lot of players, big money, his players, and they just look like the opposite to Brighton in terms of they look like they've got no leadership, no direction, no ethos or philosophy of style of play. I truly believe that Ten Hag's going to be one of the bookies' favourites very soon to be first for the chop.
Yeah, no, I agree. I put a video out about this yesterday. That there's another manager, obviously, we're going to get to very shortly, but that will be on that conversation. Is it going to happen or is it not? But you've got to look at it. Who's out there? If they sack him, who are Man United right now going to go and say, we're going to appoint this one? Their club's in disarray. The club don't like the ownership over there. They want the Glazers out. We know that. That's not a secret. I think they've made it very, very clear about it.
Yeah.
But where's it going to change at Man United? Man United look like a very easy team to play. Back in the day when I was growing up, you go, I hated going to Old Trafford. It was one of those games go.
No, it's the theatre of dreams. No one took points from the theatre of dreams,
one
did they?
You didn't want to go there. You would take a point at Old Trafford. Nowadays, you don't. Teams are going there going, do you know what? We're getting at them. And by the way, if we're talking about Man United, we should be talking about Brighton as well. Brighton,
hang on. We're going to move to Brighton. We're going to move to Brighton. Don't worry.
I'll move it there anyways.
Yeah,
I'll do it anyway, but we'll move there. Brighton were absolutely outstanding. And it was a former academy graduate that told me absolutely everything about Manchester United. Because I'll tell you now, Man United fans won't want to hear it, but they would have had Danny Welbeck in that front line today for them. Because Danny Welbeck did absolutely nothing against Højlund. I thought Højlund was actually really good. He played really well for him. But Danny Welbeck just showed everything that is wrong with Man United and everything that's right about Brighton. But desire and showed everything in that game.
Let's move to Brighton because, I mean, Brighton are... I keep being told every year I'm told that it's not sustainable. You can't keep selling your best players and you can't keep progressing. But the funny thing is, it seems that the better the player they sell, their trajectory keeps going up. It's not even like they're staying steady. They're going like that every season. And I think the worry, if I was a Brighton fan, would be De Zerbi's name is surely going to start getting bandied about for some big clubs like a Man United very, very soon, isn't it?
No, definitely. I think De Zerbi had that last summer. There was jobs available that he was named. So you could say Tottenham, people were going, we'd love a De Zerbi at Tottenham, as an example. There's other clubs, that, not just in European world football, would want a De Zerbi right now.
Yep.
But right now, here's a serious question. Yes, it's Man United and the name is bigger. But are Brighton right now, here's a question, not just, and also for the guys in the comments as well. Are Brighton right now on a better course than Man United are? Seriously.
I mean, look, it's a great question. Where would you rather be, Man United or Brighton? And I mean, I'm guessing if De Zerbi, I'm not. By the way, there's no links to him to the job. But if Man U were to come in for a De Zerbi, surely he'd have to look and go, "This is a big old job. I've got to implement something here." And he might look at a lot of these prima donnas at Man United and say, "Are they going to do for me what my players at Brighton do for me?" You know, are the Brunos and the Mounts and the Rashfords and all of these people, are they going to run through brick walls and play the style that Brighton want? But hey, listen, that's another story. Well done, Brighton. They lost heavily to West Ham and everyone said, oh, there you go. They're not as good. They've won 4 of their other 5. So tucked in just behind Spurs. But talking about Spurs, Tottenham 2, Sheffield United 1. Obviously, we both support Spurs. Everyone knows. A roller coaster of emotions, especially in the last 25 minutes of that game, from the 75th minute onwards. How would you sum up the Tottenham Sheffield United game?
I mean, up to 70 minutes, you went yawn was probably the politest way of putting it. It wasn't exciting. I said from the minute I mentioned it to you before, I said the tempo. It worried me at the beginning, the first 2 minutes of it. And I went, this tempo doesn't feel right to me. It was Romero to Van de Ven, which trying to pull out Sheffield United. It didn't work. Yeah. And we then went, do we have a second option? Couldn't see it. We were trying. We knocked on the door. Thought the one thing I will give us for most of it, we never gave up. It was work hard. And then Sheffield United take the lead and you go, uh-oh, this has 1-0 written all over it. And I said it.
The classic smash and grab away win, right?
Yeah, it felt all Stoke City. I mean, they wear the Stoke City colours with the long Rory Delap style throw into the box.
Yeah.
Bundles everywhere, and then Gustavo Harmer at the back post with, by the way, credit to him, tidy finish, by the way.
Yeah, good finish.
Tidy finish. And you went, uh-oh, here we go. This has it. And even after that, the subs came on. I felt came on a little bit late. And then, what can you say? 96th minute, it was 1-0 to Sheffield United. In the 101st minute, it was 2-0 Tottenham. And massive credit to Richarlison for getting his goal and then Kulusevski for the winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it was a real test of character for Spurs because at 75, 80 minutes, lots of the comments that started to come through were, Spursy. You know, we're at it again. Nothing has changed. Second home game of the season, and we're going to lose. But they dug in. Postecoglou made some attacking changes. To be fair to him, he made attacking changes. We had centre-halves coming off and midfielders and forwards going on. And they dug in. And I think that would be more pleasing for people. It wasn't the 4-0, 5-0 that so many were predicting. But I think for a lot of people, especially for me, what was more pleasing was that it was a game which in the past we would have very easily lost or maybe scraped a point. But we dug in, played right to the final whistle and grabbed 2 goals. I think the character for me was the most important thing.
Agreed. And the other thing I see, the manager, I think you made a great point about the substitutions. Whereas previous managers would have not really changed the system. He went, do you know what? We were at the 94th, we were at the 90th minute, kitchen sink time, right? Defender off, centre midfielder on, centre midfielder off, and then throw on another attacker and go, do you know what? If we lose 2-0, we lose 2-0, but at least we're going to try, we're going to die winning, right? Try and win the game. And that's what we did.
Yep. Absolutely. So look, that puts Spurs in second, but we'll talk about the table in a little bit. Moving on to another London club, West Ham United 1, Manchester City 3. Lots of talk around West Ham that they've kind of gone back to what they know. They've gone back to being that counter-attacking team. They've brought in some good players in James Ward-Prowse, Edson Alvarez, Mavropanos. They've brought in Kudos as well. But they're a tough opposition, but just didn't quite have enough for a Man City team that are coasting right now, aren't they? They're just coasting through this league.
Yeah, I mean, the goal winning early, good goal by the way by James Ward-Prowse early into the first half, and you went, is this a shocker? And then we were all corrected because the same old Man City went, do you know what? They've got the players that grab the game by the scruff of the neck and go, we're going to win this. Yeah. And Bernardo Silva, brilliant. Haaland, brilliant. And game over, really. And they just swept West Ham by. And good luck West Ham, by the way, this season. Not one of these. Listen, I think they're going to be absolutely fine. I think they're going to be in that sort of we're in Europe competition this season where it's, do you know what? They're probably more prioritise Europe than league position, which they did last season. And good on them. They won a trophy because of it. I think they need to stick to that philosophy and go, do you know what? As long as you don't get in a relegation battle, which they did last season, I think their fans will be happy winning another European trophy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key thing that I'll leave it there with Man City. We know how good they are, but the key thing is for me, when I watch Man City, they look like they haven't even got out of first or second gear. They're just strolling through games. All right, they might let in a goal, but then they're just going boom, boom, boom. You know, they did it against Fulham. They've done it against West Ham. They're just a force. And can you see anyone outside of Man City winning the title this year?
I mean, it'll be a massive shock if someone else is. Man City are one of the only teams in the league that go 1-0 down. I go, they're still winning this game of football. At any time of it, by the way, they could go 1-0 down with 80 minutes, with 10 minutes to go. And I go, I still fancy Man City winning. They're that good, right? They just, when they need to, click of a finger, boom, done. And that's one of those teams. And there's not many teams in the league that I go, they've got the character to go, do you know what? We're going to win this. Even if we go 1 or 2-0 down, we're still winning this game of football.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the evening kickoff on Saturday was Newcastle 1, Brentford 0. Huge game for Newcastle, really. I mean, they were coming off the back of, look, they absolutely destroyed Villa in the first game of the season and everyone went mad for it. Like, oh my God, look at Newcastle. Then they lost 3 on the bounce. And all the talk was, hang on, Eddie Howe, a little bit of trouble. And to bounce back with a win and a clean sheet, they'll be delighted with that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, no, agreed. It was one of those games of football which, if I was a Brentford fan, I'll be absolutely livid. Never a pen. It's an absolutely shocking decision. And we can talk about refereeing decisions in a lot of these games today. We haven't spoken about it, but some of the refereeing this week has been
shocking,
horrendous.
Yeah.
Some of the decisions that have been given. I mean, it was never a penalty. But listen, you beggars can't be choosers. You're not gonna kick the ball over the bar if you don't think it is. You're going to go and score it. And Newcastle are back to what they're good at, right? Winning games of football by not conceding goals. They did a lot last season. They had one of the best defenses in the league last season. So for Newcastle, they need to keep doing that. The best the best for them to get back into the Champions League places is by not conceding goals, because that's what they were good at last season.
Yeah,
they were good at roughing it up and not letting teams concede. And just to sort of talk a quick one about Brentford, I think Brentford will be another team that will be absolutely fine this season. They're a very good outfit.
Yeah, and you think they're doing it all without Ivan Toney as well. But I mean, I think, it was always going to be a difficult year for me when looking at Newcastle, because they're so far ahead of their plan already. It's unreal. And they've gone from that team that, were they the most exciting team to watch last year? No. They were a good team, very well oiled, got their goals, but now people want to see more. And when you come out and try and express yourself a bit more, naturally you are more vulnerable at the back. And that's what we've seen in the last couple of games. Yep. So a good win for them, and that gets them to 6 points and moving in the right direction. If we move to yesterday's two games, Bournemouth 0, Chelsea 0. I looked at the Chelsea lineup when it came out, and I didn't realize how many injuries already Chelsea have. But also, I can't work out what Pochettino is doing. Some of his tactics, his team decisions, playing players out of position, it just feels, I don't know, he feels a little bit lost there from an outsider looking in. What do you make of Poch at Chelsea so far?
Yeah, another game I predicted right. I predicted a 0-0. People went, what? You went 0-0 there. And I got that one's another one. I got 3 spot on this week, which was quite interesting. I got the Liverpool
Perchie's
game.
like Nostradamus of the football world. Is that what we're saying?
Fulham and Bournemouth Chelsea game all bang on this week. So I got 3 spot on at the moment. So, but I sat there and I went, do you know what? Again, it's another game. I mentioned it in the Fulham Luton game. What do neither of these two teams have? Goal scorers.
Yeah.
And Chelsea are crying out for someone that can put the goal in the net. Listen, I look at it and go, that if I was Chelsea right now, I'd be doing anything I can to get Ivan Toney out of Brentford in January, because they need someone that will score on goals. And this game was one of them. I mean, they call it Super Sunday. It was more like Sleeping Sunday, because it was real 2 boring games. We'll get onto the other one in just a second. But yeah, credit to Bournemouth. They made it really difficult for Chelsea. But you're right. When we talk about Chelsea, don't know what they're going to do there. And I think Pochettino's job is genuinely at risk. I think, how long do they stick it out with him? And I know you've got a different slight view on it, but
it's not. Listen, I think he's doing poorly, but I just look at Chelsea and say, how many managers can you keep going through? Like, if you are going to change your manager every 5, 10, 15 results, the club's got no chance. But at the same time, it's true. This is the difficulty, right? It's the balance. At the same time, the results aren't going their way. Their only win so far is Luton Town at home, who most teams will fancy to beat. And off the back of that, their running between now and Christmas and New Year is tough. So keep an eye on that one. But look, Bournemouth did dig in. They got the point. A game that really lacked quality for me. No team looked comfortable on the ball. There was no more than 5 passes from each team before the ball was lost. And I think 0-0 was probably the right result.
Correct. Yeah, bang on. And just sort of slightly slide back to Chelsea for a second. And there's a stat that I read that I was absolutely gobsmacked with, that Chelsea have only won 1 more game than Ange Postecoglou has done in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Let that sink in 2023.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's mad.
That says everything right now. They can't win games of football. But I think you're spot on. It was a ball draw, really. That's the best way to put it.
It really was. And I'll tell you another ball, and this wasn't a ball draw, but if we look at Everton versus them lot down the road, Everton 0, Arsenal 1, a really poor game. And for me, yesterday was a really bad advert for the Premier League. If watching those 2 games, and when people always say, all the other leagues are boring and there's no good teams, I watch games better than what I saw yesterday all the time in other leagues. But look, Everton 0, Arsenal 1. I get the feeling, Perchie, Everton could have played against no opposition until midnight and still wouldn't have managed to have an attack and score a goal. They look absolutely toothless as a football club.
And listen, this is the problem. And I was saying it earlier with people about this, and I just said, listen, Everton Football Club are in real problems. They've got the right manager to save them, but they haven't got the right players. Like I thought in the summer, I thought, do you know what they'll do? They had him on loan last season. They would go all out to get Connor Cody in on a permanent deal. Him and Tarkowski get sent off, and then just, you know what? We're not going to go. We're not going to be pretty, but we're going to build to stay up.
Yeah.
They've got the wrong football players at that football club right now for the manager. They've got, like, I think he's an all right player, but they've got the likes of Ben Godfrey at centre half and stuff like that. And I go, he's a nice player, but he isn't going to be able to do what he's asked at that club. He's a very much a modern day centre half where he's good on the ball, but do you know what? They need warriors in that team. They haven't got many warriors.
And I think the thing is that was successful for Sean Dyche at Burnley was the fact that they did play the 4-4-2, which is a bit of a throwback. You always knew they were going to be dangerous from crosses being whipped in, and then the likes of Ashley Barnes, Jay Rodriguez, Chris Wood. You knew that Burnley would mix it up in the midfield and fight, but that they'd be a nuisance in your box. I'm watching this 4-3-3 type thing going on with Everton, and I don't see any goal threat at all. I don't see any way in which this team can score goals. Like, they look dreadful.
I agree, and I said it all summer, and I was saying it now, and like, I'm gobsmacked. They didn't just go out and buy Wout Weghorst. It just felt right for them. It would have fit. And listen, and everyone would have gone, oh, it's not that inspiring. It's not the inspiring player, but he's a lump up front, and he would have got him a few goals, and someone like him would have been the difference yesterday. And it sounds crazy because he's not the most technically gifted player, but what he does know, he knows how to score goals with his head. And you get a big boy up there, and it will just cause problems to that Arsenal defence. But it kind of just felt weird that Everton didn't go and get someone like him. It would have fit the mould perfectly for him.
Because even then, when you look at the Everton midfield, and we'll move on to Arsenal in a second, but when you look at their midfield of Gueye, Doucouré, and Onana, not bad players in their own right. But again, you're looking at that and going, there's zero creativity there. Yeah. There's zero desire to get into the box to go and support. Yeah. And then you look at McNeil. He's an okay player. I mean, he's an average Premier League footballer.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side was Danjuma, who's okay. Yeah. Beto, he's okay. But for me, this is a real worry. Arsenal, difficult one. We've got Arsenal, obviously, next weekend in the North London derby at the Emirates. Arsenal are not playing the pretty football they were playing last year. They don't look the same team, but they've still not lost a game, Perchie. And they've got the same record as us. Played 5, won 4, drawn 1. They've scored less than us. They've conceded less than us. But what do you make of Arsenal yesterday?
Arsenal, uninspiring, but got the job done. I think that's the best way to put it. I thought they got dug out of the hole by an absolute wonder strike, by the way, from Trossard. I thought it was absolutely
good finish. Good finish.
I think really, really good finish. But I think he's a real talent, and I think he's going to be a worry for us next week. If Martinelli is injured, looks like it, but that's the difference, right? They've got depth. They can bring off an injured Martinelli and bring on a Trossard. I think they've got good depth, good strength there, and I think they're going to do absolutely. I think they'll be absolutely fine. Arsenal. I think hopefully not against us. I think we beat them, but I thought it was one of those. That game yesterday was one of those that you take the 3 points, but you don't really look back at it. At the end of the season, you don't go, "Oh, that's the game we want to talk about." It's 3 points, and you move on with it, right?
And they're moving on. They're winning games, and they look. I say they look good at the back. It's difficult to tell against Everton, but they're not conceding many goals. And then just to wrap up the show, Perchie, I don't want to go past the half an hour mark. As we can see there, this is how it has left the Premier League table with the top 8. Man City 5 from 5, 14 goals. I mean, what's that? They're averaging just under 3 goals a game. They're conceding one goal every game and a half. And then Spurs, and Liverpool and Arsenal all tucked in there on 13 points with the same records. Happy with the start of the season for Spurs?
Yeah, I mean, I can't listen after last season was really boring, I think. But I think you can't really argue that. Haven't lost a game in 5. The draw was the opening game of the season, so we're on 4 out of 4 at the moment, if you say that. We move on to Arsenal. Listen, Arsenal away, not an easy place to go to, right? Yeah. We always know that. We don't naturally win there. But do you know what I want to see? I say this all the time. commitment and desire. I don't want us to fall in our shells, which I feel like we have done for the last few years.
Yeah. Other than that, just last question, really, really quickly, 10-second answer. Anyone there that shocks you? Is there anyone that's not in there that you expect as time goes by for them to creep into that top 8?
No, I think the table is what it is, right? I think the table is what it is. The one thing that does shock me is Brighton, and not because of where the position is, scored the most goals this season.
Yeah.
They've scored 15 goals. They're averaging 3 goals a game. And for me, listen, I think goal difference is going to be crucial for this sort of third to sort of sixth era. I think goal difference can be very crucial. I think teams are going to be relatively similar in that third place to sort of sixth or seventh place.
I agree with you.
And if Brighton are going to keep scoring 3 goals a game, that puts them in the shop window. That goal difference is basically an extra point. So...
yeah, absolutely. Listen, Perchy, thanks so much for that, mate. Just so you know, on the channel, we'll be back tomorrow. I'm only doing a Tuesday and Thursday morning chat with Sava instead of Monday to Friday. And tomorrow night, myself, Perchy, Haz, and Strasbourg, Steve, will be having a watch-along for PSG versus Borussia Dortmund. And then Wednesday night for Bayern Munich versus Manchester United. So join us for that. Please please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Perchy, thank you for your time. And as always, come on, you Spurs.